You know, recently I found myself wondering that Kavya, what you're trying to do, is it the right way of doing it? Are you treading in the right direction? Sometimes it happens that you've entered this beautiful path of devotion or bhakti, but then because there are so many, different nuances and intricacies of bhakti, you sometimes get so confused and it leaves you overwhelming, thinking and questioning yourself, am I treading in the right direction or not? And when I was wondering about this, all of a sudden, I was reminded of one of the most beautiful advices that I got from a senior advocate at the Honorable Supreme Court of India. He said, Kavya, whenever you're confused in life, go back to your basics. Just find your roots and head back towards the basics, and then it will give you clarity. And I tried to apply that same scenario in the present situation. And what I found was so mesmerizing and was so simple. It only comprises of 4 steps. If you apply them, Krishna would definitely be pleased and you would become a nice and proper bhakt or devotee. So just by performing these 4 basic things, we are surely to advance on this beautiful path of bhakti. So without any further delay, let us begin with this video. Hari Hari Bol! Imagine your childhood. You're waking up early in the morning, getting ready for your school, your mother is packing your lunch, your father is ready to drop you at the school or maybe to your bus, and you get to your school, there's a morning assembly, and then you go back to your class. So that's what a typical routine of any student looks like. And this is actually going to be a very good example because all of us have actually been through this particular phase of life at least once in our life. So, whenever we are in our classroom, we used to learn the basics. And when we were in our first standard, what did we actually learn? We learned A, B, C, D, or the alphabets. So, we used to come together and we used to learn together. Now, let me ask you a question. Why did we go to our classes? Why was there a particular group of students who would come together and study together? Why not individually study at home? Well, it is a very clear and simple phenomena that whenever those people come together who have the same goal, in this particular case to study ABCD, when they all come together and then make a collective endeavor, it will also motivate that one student who was not that motivated to study, but because he was watching other classmates study so well, even he was inspired and encouraged to study that subject well. So what it does is that it increases your attention span, it increases your aspiration to become a really good student, and it also motivates you to actually pay attention of what is going on in the class. And you know what? This particular phenomena, like I could personally observe this beautiful phenomena interestingly while sitting at my home during the lockdown. In the COVID period wherein students were not really able to physically attend their classrooms and they were kind of confined to, sit at their homes and then be in front of a screen wherein the teacher was teaching them. So I could observe this phenomena with my little siblings, Kriti and Keshav, wherein they obviously were getting up early in the morning, they were putting on their school dress and then they were sitting right in front of the screen to attend their online classes. The teacher was the same, subject was the same, the methodology of teaching was also the same, just that it was from a physical mode converted to an online medium of teaching. But then I could see that the attention span of Kriti and Keshav, and I'm sure that you all must have also observed that at your home, that the attention span reduced tremendously. The curiosity of asking questions reduced tremendously, and the overall efficiency in learning that particular subject reduced tremendously. So why did it happen? Was the teacher different? No, even the subject was the same, the syllabus was the same, everything was same. Just that students, instead of being together and trying to collectively learn that subject, while being in physical proximity, they were actually separated and sitting at their respective homes. So we see that whenever students come together and then endeavor to do something, it increases your efficiency, because it's not 1 plus 1 is equal to 2, it becomes 1 plus 1 is equal to 11. So just like we have it in our material learning of subjects, we also have the same phenomena whenever it comes to spiritual association. So that is why the ABCD of spirituality, in which A begins from association, it becomes an inherent feature of one's spiritual life. It becomes the basis of one's spirituality. So A means association, which means coming in contact with those who have same mentality. And what do I mean by same mentality? In Hindi, there's a beautiful term called sajatiya, which means like-minded people. So whenever two people have the same mindset of trying to please Krishna, whenever they come together and then try to please Krishna, it becomes 1 plus 1 is equal to 11. And we can see that the collective endeavor pleases Krishna even more, because then he sees our sincerity, that, oh, this wonderful person, this wonderful devotee is trying to please me by also encouraging other people to come up in this realm of bhakti. So A means association or sang. Sang could also be of two types, Vapu Sang and Vani Sang. In Vapu Sang, we physically associate with the devotees, and in Vani Sangha, we associate with the Vani, their teachings, and we try to follow those teachings. Well, Vani Sangha is definitely the best, because as we can see that Srila Prabhupada, though physically not with us, but Srila Prabhupada mentioned that I shall never die. I shall always live by my books. So if we follow the teachings of Srila Prabhupada loves us so much that he guarantees that he would always stay with us. So Vani Sangha is the best, or associating with the Vani of pure-hearted devotees. So this was the first step. Now tell me, once you all came together in your classroom, what were you studying? Well, you were studying your syllabus, but you definitely had certain reference books which you were referencing to while studying. Similarly, even in the life of a devotee, B stands for books. Reading spiritual literature, reading the transcendental books. And why do I call them transcendental books? Simply because the subject matter of spiritual literature is to train you to see something which cannot be ordinarily seen, and to make you feel something which ordinarily could not be felt. So because, the subject matter of this spiritual literature is beyond our sense perception, that is why these books are called transcendental. And the syllabus is whatever is written in those reference books, which are Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and all other such Vedic literature books. So after books comes C, which stands for chanting. Chanting means japa, कुछ जाप करना किसी मंत्र का. मंत्र मीन्स ऐसी चीज जो आपको तार सके, which can make you go across the ocean of birth and death. And which mantra to chant is also very important. Well, in the age of Kali Yuga, the mantra which has been recommended by our Vedic scriptures is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. This mantra is also known as the Maha Mantra, and in our Vedic scriptures, it has also been described as the Tarak Brahma Mantra. So it's one of those greatest mantras of all times, especially in the age of Kali Yuga. But there are some people who would come up to you and say that, why do you keep chanting? Just, have this mantra in your head and just do all the good deeds. Become a philanthropist and that's it. Why do you have to chant the mantra? What is the significance of chanting? Why do you have to keep, repeating this mantra again and again? So there would be people who would be asking this question as well. Well, there are two answers to this. First is the spiritual answer, and the next one is the psychological answer. Starting with the spiritual answer, when Srimad Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is none other than Sri Krishna, when he took the bhav or the heart of Srimati Radharani and descended on this earth to give us Krishna Prem or the love of Godhead, the mantra that he himself recommended was Hare Krishna mantra. That is why, because it is coming right from the original source, right from Krishna, that is why we take the authentic source to be Krishna himself. Now the other aspect, which is the psychological aspect. You must have heard about this phrase, garbage in, garbage out. Whatever you feed into the system, only that thing will come out. So if you keep feeding into your system the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra or the transcendental holy name of the Lord, then what will come out? Your algorithm or the internal configuration of your system would change in such a way that whatever comes out would only be filled with positivity. That's it. Because you are putting in Hare Krishna Mahamantra, whatever comes out would also be transcendental. Well, that is a simple explanation. And after C comes D. In normal life, what do students learn? D stands for doll. But for the spiritualists, D stands for diet. Diet means anything eatable, whatever you consume. Again, putting on the same phenomena here, garbage in, garbage out. Whatever you're feeding into the system, if that is filled with tamogun, because there are three modes of material nature. First is satogun, the mode of goodness. Second is mode of passion or rajogun. And the third one is tamogun, which is the mode of ignorance. So whatever you're feeding into your system, that would come out. If I'm eating, say, something very rajasic, something which is in the mode of passion, then what will come out? It will come out as rajas only, which is anger, passion, unhealthy competitiveness. So all of these are the lakshan of rajogun. Similarly, if you only consume the remnants of the Lord, which is Mahaprasad of the Lord, that particular food item which the Lord himself has mercifully tasted, then it will definitely impact your internal health, will make you even more healthier in terms of physicality and in terms of spirituality, and that glow, that spiritual glow would automatically come out of you. So that is why it's very essential to take a note of what you're consuming, because that will only decide of what will come out and will ultimately shape you. So these were the basics of spirituality, and definitely these collectively become the foundation upon which the entire building of spirituality is stood upon. That is why it's very important that we have a very strong foundation so that the building would never collapse. So yes, these were the basics of spirituality, and I'm sure that if we are actually, with our entire heart, if we are wholeheartedly and sincerely following all these basic 4 principles, then we are surely to advance on this path of bhakti, and we would definitely be retained on this wonderful path for a very, very long time. And if Krishna willing, maybe we would become so fortunate to attract his mercy and his wonderful, merciful and karunamayi glance that we may get to, meet Krishna face to face by the end of this lifetime. Because in the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says, Antakale cha mameva smarana muktava kalevaram. Whoever remembers me in the time of their end is surely to attain me. But in order to remember Krishna in our final time, we need to continuously prepare for that final examination throughout our life. And that is what bhakti teaches us. And there are so many other examples and anecdotes given in Srimad Bhagavatam as well, including the story and wonderful pastime of Ajamil, how he attained the mercy of Krishna during his end time. Well, we can surely reserve those pastimes maybe for some other video or some other time. But for now, I'm sure that if we put our whole heart into performing these 4 basic things, the foundation of our bhakti would be so strong that Krishna would definitely be pleased to accept us happily. Hare Krishna, Jai Jai Shri Radhe Shyam, Jai Jai Srila Prabhupada, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.